That man wasn't speaking no English. This in 2014. He like, oh, Lil Durk, Chief Keef, this ain't what you want. I said, excuse me?
Question for you. So, what is the craziest thing you bought this year? And it could be an investment, it could be something personal, like a purse, car, or whatever. But what is not crazy, but what is the most exciting purchase you've made so far this year?
This year, well, April, we kind of early into the year. What did I buy this year?
Or last year included? I'll make it easy. Last year included.
I think last year the craziest thing, I don't know if it's like buying, but I invested a lot into starting my Airbnb. And that was something I went into like very blind. I won't say blind, but limited knowledge, and was just like, okay, I just got to buy all this furniture and sign this lease and pay this rent, and we gonna see what happens. So I would say that's probably the most risque thing I did in terms of finance, because I really didn't know, one, how soon I would get a return on my investment, but two, if I was doing it the right way. But it ended up working out very quickly. I think I posted my listing on like July 21st. I got my first message for a booking on like July 23rd. And I was like, I don't have internet, I don't have cable, like y'all can come, but Spectrum still got to come out here. So I would say that's probably the most crazy thing, because it was just like a quick 4,000, like we finna see what happened.
So, what inspires you? I guess that just opens up so much. But what
Yeah.
inspires you for that?
I would say honestly, my brother, he's not my blood brother, he's one of my best friends. He's a lot of the reason that I moved to Texas too, because he moved after undergrad, but he didn't graduate. And he was doing really well for himself out there. And so I visited him. And in visiting him, one, I saw there was a lot of affluence for black people in Dallas, which I had not seen the same way I see in like Chicago or Atlanta. It was like everywhere. Everybody, had it. And then like he was telling me like my manager is black and my district manager is black and the regional, and I was like, okay, let me find out, there's a lot of opportunity out here, even if on paper you don't have it all together. And so he inspired me to move to Dallas, and then he was doing Airbnb. He was like, yeah, bro, it's sweet, just get an apartment. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem, let me just go get one from the store. But I ended up getting one in the same complex as him, and literally 1.5 days on being live posting, it was booked up for 2 months.
Were you scared?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, because, I didn't expect it to take off that fast. And so I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I'm cleaning within COVID protocols. And I want to make sure, like, I'm a good host, but I'm not too accommodating because people take advantage of that. So it was kind of like me building the plane as I was flying it. Yeah, but it was fun.
It was. So, are you still doing it?
No. I just wanted to see if I could. Once my lease was up, I was like, that's cute. I made my money back. Maybe I'll try again, in a year or two. But it's a lot of maintenance. And even though I was like outsourcing the work for cleaning, even that was just like me checking out the other people and like just kind of being anxious around where things done to my standards. And so I let it rock.
That's interesting. So, what I think sometimes is people. I don't want to say underestimate when they should cut things off or when they should put things on pause. So, like, what made you feel like in a more detailed answer, like, all right, I did it, I've been there, done that, but I might not want to do this right now because I want to go into this lane, which isn't always a bad thing, but
Yeah, I think it's beauty in knowing when to pivot, like leaving the game while you still winning. And so, one, I felt myself being depleted in a lot of other ways. Two, it was affecting my actual career. And three, like some of my guests, like I don't know if I can curse on here, so I won't. But like some of my guests are just mad annoying, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with y'all. And then I also was thinking about doing it on like a bigger scale. So me and my mom were talking about getting a building out here and then having all 3 units for Airbnb. And so I wanted to put my time, energy, and money into that. So I think those was like the 3 main factors that made me say, okay, I did it.
okay. Okay. Well, okay. Let me pivot a little bit. Let's go back.
Okay.
I think it's the most interesting about you is just like the different layers that make you who you are today. And sometimes for other people to understand, because I still barely know myself, but like when what do you think are some early inspirations that sparked you to be who you are today? Like with you wanting to, what some may not know, become an author, with you wanting to try the Airbnb, what were some early lessons or examples that just made you just say, yes, I'm gonna do that?
Yeah, I think it's two parts. So one, you follow me on Instagram. I love the East Side. I'm East Side crazy. I'm gonna throw them E's up wherever, whenever, no matter who around, the country, the state, the city. And so I think part of that was my upbringing. Just like all the people I met on the East Side, and that was really the focal point of my book. Like all the things that I learned and trying to capture that in real time, those lessons and those kind of like revelations about myself and people that I met. So the East Side definitely was a huge influence, but also my parents and my family. So my uncle was a part of the Black Panthers when they started their chapter in Chicago, and he was really good friends with Fred Hampton. And so in terms of like the revolutionary, spirit, and even at Snapchat, I was always pushing the envelope, sending letters to the CEOs while we doing Valentine's Day but not celebrating Black History Month. I feel like a lot of that bravery came from him. And then in terms of packaging and intellect, I feel like that came from my mom and dad. Because my mom used to write poetry in the 90s, and my dad encouraged me to read early on. Like, he made me take the Constitution when I was 9. Like, that's what we was doing for fun. So I feel like my family and my surroundings, like my immediate surroundings, had a lot to do with that.
So your family was, so like the old saying is, it takes a village to raise a kid. Would you say like it was multiple different people that came into that were in your life that helped shape this? So I didn't know about you said your uncle?
Yeah, my uncle absolutely, was in the Black Panthers, and he's like, me and him are like the biggest nerds in the family on my mom's side, and so he can call me like, oh, did you see this video about this conspiracy theory, and what you think about this, and I'm finna go back to Ghana, and I'm like, yeah, all right, that's cool. So him for sure, and my mom and dad. But I feel like ultimately a lot of the adults in my life never silenced me because I was a child. They didn't, there were obviously boundaries and like respect, but I never felt small or less than or inadequate. And I feel like that kind of gave me not a bravado, but like as I moved throughout the world, I didn't feel like I needed to shrink myself for anybody. And I think oftentimes that's what the world asks for and sometimes demands of Black women. Shrink yourself, be quiet, be meek, be humble. And I think there's beauty in humility, of course, but when you come from people that tell you and show you you have something to offer, and even if you stumble, it's okay because you tried, you kind of open to trying more stuff. Like, oh, okay, cool, I done failed before. I know what happened after this. I got 2 legs. They work. I'm going to get back up. So I think they impacted me the most in that just, like, mentally, like, I can try it. And I come from good stock. And I come from people who've been through way worse than I would ever go through in my lifetime. And they made sure that I won't have to go through that. So the least I could do is try some things out to make it better for all of us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that's really what it is. I love my family. We small, but we mighty.
Hey, you know what? I like that because it just shows like how important family should be in a child's life, and just like we're all children at some point in age, and so I can't. What you don't know is like my father's a pastor.
Okay.
But I come from like like a church background, but when you coming up in a church background, it's very family oriented. But one thing that you highlighted was just understanding, and I think goes into the next question: understanding the line between respect and letting a child just be free. What would you say are like how did your family teach you the line between respect and then it's just also being free?
Yeah, trial and error. Honestly, that's the honest answer. I crossed the line plenty of times. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. Or am I counting myself? 6, me and my brother. Okay, so 8 kids. I'm the youngest, and the age gap is 6 years between me and the next youngest. And so I think I got a very different version of my parents, potentially a more lenient or like worn out version. And so yeah, I pushed the envelope, like especially when I went to Peyton. Me and my OG used to have it out.
You said
like,
Peyton?
Walter Payton College Prep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I went there, me and my mom used to have it out, especially because at that time, a lot of people don't know, my father was incarcerated. And so he was the parent that I was like closest to in terms of friendship. And then he went away when I was 12. And so when I got to Peyton, I was just in a very like rebellious state and kind of angry and not really knowing where to place that, which is why I'm so grateful for poetry and writing and track, because I feel like that gave me a lot of outlets to put it in. But I think the way that we learned what that line was, both my parents, is through trial and error. You know, I think a lot of the times I felt justified doing stuff that now at 28 I wouldn't dare. Like, and I wish my niece or my nephew would, or my future child would. But you know, when you're a teenager, you just like, well, I don't understand the world and the world doesn't understand me, and somebody got to do something about something. Versus like now I understand, like, my mother was her own person before she entered motherhood, and now I see her as a woman and as a human first, then a parent. And so I think just time and age made that understanding easier. But yeah, straddling that line was just trial and error. You get into it enough times, get on punishment enough times, get your phone taken, get embarrassed, get told you can't go to certain dances, you learn what parameters to function within. And so, and then once you realize, like, we on the same team, I feel like that's something I'm learning about relationships in general. Like, even if we are in conflict with each other, we're more so in conflict with the situation at hand. And so I'm still on your team, you still on my team. I still love you, you love me. But what we need to work on and what we need to actively put our, you know, our energy towards is resolving a conflict, not pointing fingers at who's right and who's wrong. And my mom has demonstrated tenfold, time and time again, that, like, she in my corner if nobody else is. And so getting that understanding kind of at the tail end of high school and going into undergrad at NIU, I was like, okay, let me calm down. And and now we BFFs, so.
So your mom. So you mentioned your mom a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she played a motherly role to you. But how would you say important that was to you, just having your mother by your side when you just, you know, just want to just go into whatever you want to go to?
Yeah, she's very supportive. She's my biggest cheerleader, like, with everything. When I told her I was writing a book, she was like, how much you need to get it printed? She didn't know how I already saved the money because I was self-publishing. Same thing on my eyeshadow collection. When I told her I wanted to study abroad, I was hesitant to tell her because I'm like, I know this is expensive, like $5,000 on top of tuition, on top of everything you held down at home. And she was like, well, did you get accepted into the program? I'm like, yeah. She like, okay, you going. Don't worry about it. And of course, like, I applied for scholarships, and thank God I got a travel grant. But she paid the difference, like, no problem. Anything that she feels like will augment my quality of life or give me an experience that she didn't have, just when you need to buy, what I gotta do, what you need me to do. And so, yeah, she's very, very supportive. Even with the Airbnb, she called. Now, this is the other thing, and I hope she see this because she get a little too excited sometimes and talk a little too much. So now it's cousins, uncles, aunties, aunts, house, whoever. Yeah, I heard you doing that B&B. Yeah, I heard you doing that. So what that's giving you? I'm like, hey, happy belated birthday, happy Kwanzaa.
Right.
I'll teach a class, you know, but she was very, very proud. Even with me relocating to Texas, like, nobody in my family had up and relocated before. And so I think that sometimes she's impressed with me, but she doesn't know that, like, those seeds are things that she planted in the first place. So, yeah, that's my girl. Ride or die. She know that.
Ride or die.
I send it up for her. I'm talking about anything, anywhere.
As you should.
I send it up for that lady. Yeah, she know that.
Nah, I ain't gonna lie. As you should. Like, for me, I feel, so it's crazy. Like, I kind of had, like, the reverse effect. My father was, I hated him when I was younger. And then my mom was, like, my best friend. Like, she was the parent that just let me get away with anything. The cool parent.
Yeah, that was,
you know, slip some, you know, get some wine with her, you know, whatever. My dad was the strict one, like, constantly whooping me and all that. But I will say, like, he did. So, and then it flip-flopped when I got older. But, you know, I will say, like you said, like, trial and error. I think I'm their first child together.
Oh, okay.
I'm one of two. And I will say that's kind of how I developed, too. Just, I think they were just doing trial, because if you haven't had a kid before,
right?
I mean, what example do you have other than other people? So it's easy to tell somebody to do something instead of why you actively experiencing things.
Yeah, I also think with our parents too, their generation, like, my mom was born in the 60s. My dad was born in the late 50s. And I think the way that people parented then was just very different. It was very much like stay in a child's place, like only speak when spoken to. And so there were a lot less liberties. And so I think my mom and dad were getting lessons in real time about how to be the parents that they wanted instead of the parents that they had. And sometimes it was hard for them, like, oh, I'm going against the grain of how I was raised, but like that's the whole point. I kind of don't want to raise my kids how I was raised. And so I think for them that had a lot to do with striking a balance too, like what you just say, okay, but also I want you to feel free to express yourself. So yeah. I'm also the only one between my mom and dad, so my sisters are my half sisters on his side. My brother, I guess, is technically my half brother. We got the same mom. But my mom and dad, I'm the only kid they had, so.
So you said, let's go back to your book. What was like the spark? I mean, I get that you had like a really cultural upbringing. So like from your uncle to your father to your mother to like just everybody around you. So like, what was the inspiration? Like I don't want to say aha, but like.
Yeah, so I feel like it was a combination of things. So in high school, well, I was always athletic. So like in grammar school, I was the first girl on the flag football team. I was on the softball team, the double dutch team, basketball, volleyball, yearbook, track, you name it. Baton twirling. If it was a team, I was on it. And so that was like grammar school, like 5th through 8th grade. And then when I got to high school, I had started running track. First, I was dancing in Walter Payton, #1 school in the state. Not really the best dance coaches. Not my vibe. Not my type of dance. Being from the east side, I was like, yeah, nah, what's this? And so I feel like my lash coming up. I'm gonna look over and put these shades on.
Hey, we got
edit that out. But right, so then when I got to Payton, I did dance for like a year, and then I started running track, and I loved it, and I was fast as hell, and it was great. And then I tore my meniscus, and I was pissed. And at the time, like I could have gotten physical therapy, but a lot of it would have been out of pocket for my mom because it would have been considered like a cosmetic therapy. It didn't impede my walking or anything like that. I just couldn't compete. And so I stopped running track. And I was like, okay, what I'm finna do, one, with all this free time, and two, like, with all this energy. And so I started going to Harold Washington Library downtown. And I had like dabbled in writing before, but nothing serious. And I went on a Wednesday, and if you know, you know, that was Lyricist Loft back in the day, every Wednesday at Harold Washington Library and U Media. Chance, Vic Mensa, Saba, No Name, all them, we all had the same mentor, Brother Mike. And me and my best friend started going up there literally every Wednesday. Like, the library became the kicking spot. Like, we go to Chipotle down the street, go to the library, stay around after, kick it. And then it got to the point where I'm like, I think I'm going to start performing. And I started performing, and I got a lot of support and a lot of love. And then I joined the LTAP team, which is Louder Than a Bomb. So it's a poetry spoken word competition that takes place. I think it's all over Chicago. I want to say it's in other states too. But I joined the U Media team, and like, we was one of the best teams in the city. And so that gave me a little bit of confidence. And then, I don't know, I guess fast forward to college, I was still performing. I was doing open mics kind of everywhere. And I was like, I think I want to write a book. And one of my homegirls, Dominique, had wrote her book. She had wrote a chapbook too. And I was like, dang, I'm like, if Nick can do it, I can do it. And I just thought about it. I didn't really settle on it. And then in 2014, Brother Mike passed away. And we was just like, what? Like, it wasn't health related. It wasn't violent. He passed away in his sleep. And I was like, I had made a joke with him. I had stole like probably 5 books from him. And I was like, you would get these back when I write a book. But like, obviously at that point, I could not give them back. And I was like, all right, I got to do this. And so when I studied abroad, I actually started writing my book. I started the manuscript on my laptop. My last week in France, my laptop crashed. I lost everything. And I was like, okay, Lord, what you trying to tell me? Like, are these not the poems I need to be writing? But it was scattered. It wasn't thoughtful. It was like, all right, here's a poem, here's a poem, here's a poem. It wasn't no intention behind it. So I'm like, okay, what do I really want to talk about? Like, what really means something to me right now? And I was like, the East Side and love. And so started over. Scrapped all the pieces. It took me 2 years to really get it concise in 4 particular well thought out sections. And so I published it when I was 21, but I released it and got it printed for my 22nd birthday. And then went from there. I ended up winning a scholarship off of it, and I reprinted, I think, 3 times. Still thinking about doing the ebook, but I think at this point in my life, I just need to tell the stories that are true for me now. And so we'll see if it's another one. I don't know.
To be continued.
To be continued. It might be another book, but it might not be poetry. It might be like anthology or like hella essays or something. I don't know. We'll see. I really want to get to the point where I could write fiction, like a story that's not mine. I really want to get to that point. But that was a really long answer to your question of how I got into poetry. But
Hey, sometimes it take that. And
I mean, it really was like a domino effect, though. Like, honestly, I'm not going to say if he didn't pass away, I wouldn't have had a sense of urgency about writing it. But, like, the aha moment, that's what lit a fire under me. Like, you can't take this back. Like, and I still got them books to this day. To this day. Anybody know me know when I move, the first thing I pack up is my books. The first thing I unpack is my books. That's at the tone for my space. So, yeah, again, a long answer to your question.
No, like, I don't really consider... I don't like how you said that, a long answer. Because I appreciate it. Because you can't just answer everything in like one sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think what's important, which people should probably... I think people always are looking for a microwave answer and not like the context to a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, like people, we're just not like microwavable people.
Yeah.
We're just not like if I told you, hey, I'm an investor, that doesn't tell you what type of investor I am. That doesn't tell you what I'm into. So
Yeah.
feel comfortable to give as detailed answers as you.
I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. Not microwavable, but compact.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm working on borrowed time over here. I can't believe I got sick coming back to this city.
Well, you know what? That's crazy because you did move. But I want to go back to your bride moment. Because, you know, honestly, I'm just trying to, like, ask questions that are showing, like, don't be afraid to do any and everything. So, like, and I think that's sometimes what we get as a community is, and even black people, we just are sometimes just scared to act on something that we feel like we should do.
Absolutely. I don't think that it's encouraged. Me and my friend was just having this talk yesterday. What was he watching? It was something on Netflix. I don't know what it was, but basically we were talking about the mental boost or the perceived mental boost that one must have if they like actively engage in like white supremacy or like white privilege, like the entitlement that comes with that. Like, of course you're trying anything. Like, the world has not told you that you're incapable of doing this. And so the world is essentially your oyster, where I feel like in our community, from within and from with outside, there's a lot of fear-mongering. And so that's why people suffer from imposter syndrome and depression and anxiety in a way that I don't think that we talk about enough. But definitely like, oh, no, I can't do this. Or like, no, there's a very linear path to get to this place. And if I deviate from that, I'm not going to be successful. I think a lot of that sometimes comes from our parents. I think a lot of that sometimes comes from just the friction of seeing other people try something and fail is discouraging, or try something and succeed. Even with Ketanji Brown, like, no way in hell it should have took her this long to get appointed. No way. Overqualified, on and off paper. What are we doing here? And people like, oh, that's so inspiring. Now other black girls don't want to be Supreme Court justices, maybe, or a black girl's gonna be like, dang, she just jumped through a lot of hoops, went through a lot of loops. I don't really know if I got the energy for that. I don't really know if I feel like doing that. I don't really know if that's a good use of my time. And so I feel like society sometimes makes it so we are backed into a corner, not out of lack of competence or skill, but belief. And those messages are put towards us and repeated and replayed often to the point where we start to internalize it. And so, yeah, I think that's part of it. But again, it helps to have people around you that are like, no, you should try. I stumbled, but that ain't got nothing to do with you. Try anyway. Or like, you stumbled, try again. I think sometimes that make a difference. Sometimes.
Well, okay, so from what I'm gathering is that you really do got a strong family, like support. But how's your family grown with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like you obviously they're with you when you're younger, but how have they grown with you? Like, with and showing support on what your different entrepreneurial journeys.
I don't know. I think it's pretty much the same. I think they just are in my corner. I don't know. I think that now there's a lot more curiosity from them. Like, oh, like, what are you going to try next? What are you going to do next? Or, like, when are you going to pick this back up? I feel like the Aquarian in me is just, we be like, oh, that's shiny. That's cool. What's this? All right, I'm bored. What's over here? Oh, that's shiny, too. That's cool, too. And sometimes I've noticed about myself and through therapy, shout out to therapy, that sometimes things for me are more about the thrill or like the journey than the actual accomplishment. And so I'll get really excited and energized about, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is uncharted territory. How can I get on the other side of this? And then once I get on the other side of it, I'm kind of bored with it. And so, like, I'm not bored with poetry, but, like, I know what it takes to self-publish and write and print and mass-produce a piece of literature. I got that. Cool. I know what it's like to not have an Airbnb, get an Airbnb. I know what it's like to start a cosmetic collection, do cover art. You know, all these things are like, you kind of got to fill in the blanks on your own. And so I feel like something I'm really hoping for myself, and maybe that my family is hoping for me too, is finding something that keeps my attention, that makes me want to stick with it. Because I know I'll circle back to these things. But maybe, you know, another part of being an Aquarius, if I'm not good at something immediately or it doesn't go exactly how I wanted to the first time, I get frustrated. And so, perfect example, like my eyeshadow collection, it was taking off in terms of sales, but like it wasn't getting like the notoriety I felt like it deserved to be such an original concept and such a good product. And so instead of me saying like I'm gonna just go harder, like, you know, they say like the most success is right over that hump. And I think I was right at the hump. And I was like, man, I'm tired of climbing up this hill, and, you know, went the other way. And so, yeah, I think maybe my family, they're definitely curious, but also looking forward to more consistency from me. And even my adopted family, even my community in general, not just like my parents and stuff. I think they're looking forward to me finding something that I really, really, really love and sticking with it.
What made you pick that language?
Yeah. So I spoke Spanish, and I use the term spoke very loosely. I took Spanish in grammar school. And then, much like a lot of other art programs, it got discontinued at our school. And so when I got into Peyton, which at the time was the #1 school in the state, I think we had like 6 languages to choose from. It was like Latin, Mandarin, Spanish, French, I don't know what else. And I was like, okay, well, I did Spanish. Mandarin is an entirely different alphabet. Latin is really not spoken. And I was like, okay, let's see what French is for. Like, let's see. The first day of class, freshman year, I'll never forget, Miss Gonzalez. She walked in the classroom. She was like, hey, how you doing, Miss Gonzalez? You know, this is French, whatever, 101. Put something on the board. And the rest of the class, she was speaking French. She didn't translate nothing. She was writing in French. She was talking in French. Everybody in class looking at each other like, is she? We don't know what you're saying. We 14. Like, this is a beginner. Remember, this is our first day. And talked in French the whole time. And I was like, what? Thank God we had a fire drill. And so, like, we got out of class. I probably think, like, maybe 15 minutes left. And we got out of class the whole day. But we was all standing in a huddle like, I'm finna drop this class. I'm finna go see my counselor. Like, nah, I'm not finna deal with this lady. But I love Miss Gonzalez. She wouldn't let us drop it. She wouldn't give up on us. And I was like pretty decent at it. And so by the time I got to college, I was like, well, I want to do international business. I want to do something with like business, maybe being an ambassador, but I want to do it in French speaking countries. And then I learned on the tip of equity, I didn't realize how much of Africa was colonized by France. And so that made me be like, okay, well, you know, now I could take this another route. Like, I could speak to people and probably get further to my roots if I go to these places. And so when I got to NIU, they didn't have an international business major. And so I kind of had to construct my own. And so I was a French major, global studies minor, and business admin minor as well. And I did good on my placement exams. I placed into the 200 level, which was so dumb. So dumb.
How you say it was dumb?
It was dumb because I was in 400 level classes by my sophomore year, and the workload on top of everything else I was doing was just very, very intense. Like, that was the reason I was only on the dean's list freshman year, because by the time sophomore year came around, my French teachers, they were writing comic books in French for fun. Like, those are my professors. And so I just don't think I think I underestimated what the workload would look like in a 400 level course.
Excuse me. So, like, I'm not, like, college educated, but can you tell me what, like, 2, 3, 400, 1,000 level is?
Yeah, so I think the max, I think it depends, but usually 400 level courses for somebody in their senior year. Okay. That you're about to exit this course that's like, you've mastered whatever the basis of this curriculum is. And I was in it at 19. Which was raw because it helped me get my study abroad trip. Like, that was cool. But in terms of, like, my GPA and just, like, I just remember being very, very stressed at that time. It just felt like I had to achieve so much. But yeah, long story short, that's how I got into French. And I'm grateful for Miss Gonzalez. I'm grateful for Walter Payton, because when I did study abroad, I think that was the first semester that I got a 4.0, like, in all my French classes, and they were like 400 level as well. And then it was really cool to, like, a lot of people don't know Bordeaux is the wine capital of the world, and so that was nice for that to be my introduction to wine and just, like, liquor in general. Like, you could get a really nice bottle of wine for like €3, and
wait, for 3 euros?
€3.
Oh, 3.
Oh, no,
okay.
not €3. No, I don't.
Hold on. We don't support underage.
I don't support unless it's me and I am 19 in a different country. Yeah. Well, 20, however old I was, but yeah, that's how I got into it, and I'm grateful for the experience. I stuck with it a little bit. I still read it and write it, but, like, my speaking is, if you don't practice, you lose it. Or you lose the fluidity of it. Like, I just went to the Garfield Park Conservatory, and there was a couple sitting down. They was speaking French, and I was like, "Oh, tu parles français?" They was like, "Yeah." Then they said something else. I was like, "No, y'all good. Finish your conversation. We ain't gotta talk about it. Y'all okay?" But yeah, so I still read it and, like, write it, but it's very hard if you don't have somebody to practice with. Like, living in France, I was so fluent, so fluent, and you gotta be, because one, our professors was not staying with us, so we were in a dorm 15 minutes on the other side of University of Bordeaux's campus. They use different measurements in their grocery stores. Like, and Bordeaux's not a very touristy area, so a lot of people there don't speak English compared to Paris. And so, if you don't know what you're saying, it's gonna be hard for you to get around and do very basic things: catch a cab, buy food, get gas, like, get money out of the ATM, like,
they
basic
don't speak
things.
broken English?
Not really.
No.
Like, University of Bordeaux students, if they're taking those courses, but even still, it's not as comprehensive. Like, it's not as nuanced. So, yeah, grateful for that. That was a fun experience, but definitely difficult.
So, it was interesting about your story is that it sounds like you had a lot of support no matter what you went into. Whether that be the Airbnb, whether that be studying abroad, whether that be sports early on. So how do you express showing support for somebody else, or what do you? That's a terrible question. I'm really sucking, like, bad.
I know you're not.
Because I want to understand, like, what in your opinion is the definition of support from somebody that's received support along the way?
I think it's doing what people need and not what you want to give them. I think a lot of times people want to support you in a way that's convenient for them or that's familiar to them, and that's cute, but, like, you have to show up for people in a way that means something to them. And so, like, I got friends where their support is showing up. They don't care if you late. They don't care if you don't got nothing in your hand. When you show up, just show up. I got friends that I guess that's kind of like the baseline for everybody. What else? What are other ways you can show up for people or support them? Like, little stuff. Like, for example, one of my best friends, she's a makeup artist. Every reel she posts, she don't have to ask, I'm finna put it on my page, because I know that my page has more followers than her business page. Same thing when she dropped her lip gloss collection. That was my first reel on Instagram. I had never made a reel, not even for my own business, not for my food blog, not for my cooking. I'm like, bro, tell me how to make a reel so I can make a reel and everybody can see your lip gloss. And so stuff like that, just like, one, I'm going to spend money with my friends. Absolutely. I'm not going to ask for a discount. And I'm going to let everybody know, like, this is the greatest thing. Look at what my friend did. So I feel like that's one way to show support, or a few ways to show support. But I think it really just depends. People will tell you what you need and what they want if you just listen.
Do you feel like that was something that your support system never did to you, ask for a discount? That's like kind of crazy.
No, not a discount, but I will say there have been times where they've supported me in ways that were comfortable to them versus what I needed. And those are conversations that we've had to have. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So it's a lot to you. I'm gonna say that it's a lot to you, but I think it's like
I'm a complicated lady.
Kind of, I can't say it. All women are complicated to me because I'm a guy type of thing. But so, well, it is because I don't, you know. Okay, so would you say you're emotional?
I'm emotionally intelligent.
Okay, so I'm very not emotionally intelligent. I'm more like direct. Like, I feel like guys are more like just straightforward with things for the most part. Like our personalities. Like, it just shows, like, our actions show what we want.
Sometimes.
What do you think?
I think, so one, I don't think you could group everybody. I think it depends on who you're talking to, because I've adopted that mindset before, like, the guys aren't, or like they don't feel things the same way, or like they're not going to be expressive, and I ran into people who are very verbally expressive and very like thoughtful and romantic and all of that, and it also is demonstrated in their actions. But I also think that, like, you can be emotionally intelligent and direct. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like, I'm very direct in the way I communicate, but I'm also very aware of sometimes how that can be perceived, and so I try to be mindful of that. Even if I don't necessarily agree with how the person is reacting, I'm not going to invalidate how they're reacting because that's their truth. And so I feel like one part of that is I'm doing what I know how to do, which is be direct, and the other part is I'm acknowledging how this may impact you. And I feel like that second part is the emotional intelligence piece. I think that guys sometimes, and we ain't going to turn this into a relationship podcast, but I think that guys sometimes, like, if it's,
we're gonna save that.
If it's out of their comfort zone, then they will just go to what they know, even though the most growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And so I feel like there's a benefit sometimes to being in uncharted territory, because by the time you get through it, you done went through it and you know what's on the other side. And so I think it's a benefit to that, but I think some people just choose, like, to stay within the parameters of their comfort zone, and it's comfortable, you know, but you're not going to see much else if you stay there. And so, as somebody who explores, you know, I think there's beauty in sometimes being uncomfortable for the sake of learning. Whether it's people, experiences, relationships. I think sometimes it's worth the discomfort because it's temporary.
That's fair. That's a fair answer. You told me. Snap, snap.
Not snap.
I know that was corny. Y'all, okay, forget y'all. No.
You want me to snap too, so you don't feel something?
Yeah, like, let somebody
get an open mic,
y'all.
Can I just say, this is not the thing to do at an open mic. So common misconception, I blame Hollywood. You do not snap. You clap your hands when somebody is done with their poem. You do not snap. The only time you snap during a spoken word performance is if somebody say a raw line, and then during the poem you want to acknowledge like that was something raw that you just said. But at the end, use the palm of your hands and all of your fingers. I just want to put that out there. That's a sidebar.
Thanks for teaching us, like, spoken word.
You know, a little bit of etiquette, because I done been to some and I'm just like, Lord have mercy, Jesus. And, like, a round of applause is necessary. It's a performance, like any other performance. Clap your hands. Why are you doing this? I blame TV.
You know what's funny is that you mentioned Salbert earlier. Me and him were, like, in the same. We went to the same schools and the same classes and everything, and he introduced me to, like, that whole spoken word, like, culture.
Yeah.
So it's like some things you're saying, like, I understand, but it's like over time, I've watched so many movies, looked at so many different like videos.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah,
you know, that's just like a thing that I did.
some people do it. Like, I've seen it happen in real life, but it could just be a Chicago thing. You know, we think we just the best thing since sliced bread. But I know in our poetry scene, or at least what it was, you clap for a performance, you snap if somebody says something, especially like in LTAB, because being on stage, some of these people, this is their first time performing, and so those snaps are affirmation. Like, okay, my writing is good. The way I delivered this is impactful. The way it was intended, that's how it's being received. And so that's what the snaps communicate. Like, hey, you just went crazy. Versus complete silence during the entire piece. You don't know what's landing and what's missing. You don't know if you going crazy or you not. And so you snap during to say, all right, this is the right path, you know, or this particular line really resonated with me. And then you clap, you do a standing ovation, you do whatever you need to do at the end of that poem to say, you know, this was a good piece of work. And so I don't know if that's exclusive to like LTAP Chicago culture, but I know that's what I adopt in any spoken word that I go to or open mic that I go to. That's what I do.
That's dope. That's dope. You still go?
Oh yeah, it's in Dallas. Again, Chicago the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a stickler for good writing. And shout out to Brother Mike for that. He made sure that our poems were intentional. Why you put this line right there? Why you say this word instead of this word? What is this transition? What story are you telling, and did you succeed in doing that by the end of this poem? Whereas a lot of spoken word that I've seen is, and he told me that I was his everything. And it's like, girl, what are you talking about? You're 36. What are you talking about? You know, like, I think a lot of people get very engulfed in the performance. And it's very performative and theatric. And that's cool. That has its place. But what are you saying? Because I've witnessed some poems where they not all around the stage, they not screaming, they one spot the whole time, monotone. But what they saying is so hard hidden and so true, you don't have no help, no choice but to feel it. And so that's my only critique, and that's why I don't go to many open mics, especially in Dallas. I don't think that the poetry scene there has as many deep roots as it does in Chicago. Like, for example, Brother Mike was a part of like a larger conglomerate of poets and writers and performance in the city. And one of my favorite movies, Love Jones, which is based, you know, out of Chicago, on a Chicago couple, Lorenz Tate does the poem Brother to the Night. He only does a portion of it. Reggie Gibson is the author of that poem. He's also Brother Mike's mentor. So that was my mentor's mentor. He was also the executive producer for Love Jones. He was also one of the people on stage in the dashiki and the hat, you know, clapping Lorenz Tate on. And so it get deep in our city. I don't know if the roots run as deep as they do here in other places, and so that could be why the writing isn't as valued. And I'm like, I can admit, like, it probably isn't everybody, but some of the most popular open mics I've been to in other cities, underwhelming. My friends like, why you won't get on stage? It's not my ministry.
Have you ever gone on stage?
Oh yeah, other places, yeah. At NIU especially. I was on the executive board for a performance organization called Expressions at NIU, and I loved it. I led writing workshops, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. Matt Muse was my he was the president, I think, and I don't know what I was, child. Liaison, something like that. I was in 3 other orgs. But yeah, Matt Muse, we was on that executive board together, and it was a great space. Like, people that are like kind of like, I ain't gonna say like well known, but I would say yeah, like pretty known rappers now. Like, they came to Expressions, they perform. Like, it's good to have a space to get it out, even if you filtering through what's good and what's bad. And so I love all open mics for the purpose that they serve for creatives. And also I can recognize that, like, a lot of the writing is mid. Like, y'all don't be reading. That's what it is. I can tell you don't read by the way you write, and that's the tea.
Oh, don't critique my writing. I'm like the most.
That's the tea.
I'm like the most terrible person when it comes to grammar, and it's crazy. Like, some people tell me I speak how I write.
I definitely do.
And I think I'm terrible at it. Like, I only think I'm terrible because I know there's room to get better. Like, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, okay, but I don't know. See, that was something unique about Saba Cause that was like my dog, like that was like he's like a real good person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
he come from good stock. Yeah.
Like he was always true to himself when it came to just like I'm from out west, but I'm not into this and this.
Yeah.
And he really stayed focused to like who he was, and
he
honestly,
stayed down with the same people.
He did. Like it's crazy.
Like my ex-boyfriend.
I was at their house every day, and it's like sometimes you get inspiration from people. Like he's like I might not have never told him this, but he's the reason why I work a lot harder than I do because just seeing him and his dedication is like literally. I was just going to their house just to hang out.
Yeah.
But he was
a whole studio in the basement.
It was a whole studio. He was working, and it was like
yeah. Like, and it wasn't a good studio either. I'm gonna say that. And I'm gonna say that because that's my friend. I'm sorry, Taj, but y'all know what that studio was. But it built character. Like they was hungry. All them. Joe, John Wall, R.P., Squeak, Fresh. All them very, very, very hungry and very eager to this. On the west side, even on the east side, it's uncommon. Like yeah, we from over here. We jumped out the porch, but we not trying to be with none of that. Like, yeah, I love Saba.
Yeah, I appreciate it. He really, he might not know it because I don't talk. We don't talk right now or anything.
You should say something.
But he definitely inspired me to work harder because I had a job. I've always had a job, and in my entrepreneur job, like just like you, and I was literally going to work, and it's like. I felt like he was working harder than me, and it shows. And like he showed me an example of just staying like true to himself and just keep working at something.
Yeah.
And it's really inspiring. Like I'm proud of like even though we don't talk, I'm like super proud of him. Like it's like because I seen it. Like I can't say he was like a flop. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, and he's like independent.
Yeah,
that's. I feel like another thing about coming from good stock and coming from people who remind you of the importance of your roots, you're a lot less eager to let them go. Like, who was that on Solange album? Master P on his little intro, and he was talking about like, I think they were trying to buy No Limit Records, and he was like, well, if you willing to give me $1 million, I know I'm worth 10. And so I'm going to hold on to it. And I feel like Saba, all of them, like, that's their MO, like, we know how valuable these stories are, even if it's taking a world a minute to catch up, and now the world is catching up, and we finna make sure we keep ownership of it because it's important. So, yeah, definitely admire him. I would say tell him, DM him, he respond.
Oh, I mean, you know what? I see him from time to time. Like, I just never had like I don't think he understands like how I want to express that is like, hey, you really like inspired me to work hard, and like I just like more so like I want to express it in the right way where it's not like comes off like okay you just saying that, but I want to.
I don't think he would take it that way. You're not a random person out the street.
That's true.
And even if you was, like, music goes so far, it travels so fast. Nobody can discredit the impact that it has on you. Like when I studied abroad, I'll never forget. It was like this main street in Bordeaux, which is equivalent to like Rodeo. Is it Rodeo Drive? Rodeo Drive or Rodeo Avenue? I ain't never been to LA, but I know people talk about it. Rodeo or like Michigan Avenue, right? And so we used to go, me and my homegirl used to go get gelato. And we ran into this boy one day trying to talk to us. And as soon as we told him we was from Chicago, that man wasn't speaking no English. This in 2014. He like, oh, Lil Durk, Chief Keef, this ain't what you want. I said, excuse me? Don't speak no English. But I'm talking about like clockwork. And of course, we know the impact that Durk and Keef have now, but like 2014 in Bordeaux, I wasn't in Paris. I was in a very small part of southern France, and it stuck with them. And so I said it to say, Saba know where his music go. He know the reach that it has, and that's just the music. You also have the personal point of knowing him and working with him and growing up with him. So I don't think no part of him would take it as being disingenuous. Yeah, I don't get those vibes at all. I think you should say something.
I am.
Give people their flowers while they still here.
I am. If he still has the same number, text that number. If
he probably do.
He probably do. Like he's had the same number for like I don't know, like put it out there so people can just start randomly texting. But
I mean, I had the same number for 16 years, so.
I've had the same number since I was like 12.
Yep, that was 16 years ago.
16. Yeah.
The same.
Well, not to get too off topic, but I definitely am going to reach out to him because he was like indirectly a great influence to like how I work today and how just try to be as creative as possible and just stick to certain things. He definitely was one of those. What's the like catchy saying? You're the poet. What's the catchy saying for this?
That was the biggest inspiration. That's it.
Yeah, he was a good.
I think you get more catchy than that. Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, so he was definitely, he played a part, but not to hold you long. I know we've been recording, like.
Let's see what time is it. I've been recording for a cute little.
What, 30 minutes? 40?
No, closer to an hour.
Close to an hour.
Closer to.
Well, that is a long time, an hour. But I want to ask you one last question.
Is it about my food blog?
It could be.
Okay, I'm just wondering because you asked me about stuff in college like I'm a has-been. I just need to know. I'm still doing things right now.
Well, okay. So my last question is: now that we've gone back and figured out a little bit of like how you became who you are today, how would you explain who you are and what you're doing? Let me take some time to think of my question. How would you explain?
Oh, this is not hot no more.
Who you are, and how would you explain who you are today? Now that we've understand a little bit of like what you came from, how would you explain who you are today? Did I say the same thing?
You said the same thing like 3 times. I thought it was the second part to that question. Oh, what you mean, like who I am today?
And
like,
what does she have coming up?
What she have coming up? I want to ask that.
Why not?
Cause I want to. Okay. So I'm really trying to like think of like a really like good question.
I mean, I kind of feel like that question kind of answers your question as well.
It does.
I think they kind of go hand.
Okay, so we're gonna go with it.
Okay. What I have coming up is.
Okay, all right. What do you have coming up, and how would you explain who you are today?
Yeah. So, what do I have coming up? What I have actively going, is my food blog. So, I'll start with the second part first. Who I am today, I think it's who I've always been. Somebody that's just experiencing stuff and trying my hand and stuff and enjoying it for what it is when it is. Me and my best friend were talking about like content and wanting to put out content and just like using our social media platforms to our advantage. And I was like, I don't really want to be an influencer or like a content creator because I feel like, at least from what I've seen, people get put in a box. Like if you got to do hair videos or you got to do makeup videos or you got to do travel. And I don't want one part of me to be silenced or overshadowed by another part. And so something that I've just been doing, especially as it relates to content, is whatever feels right. So like if you go to my Instagram, I probably got like 7 cooking videos. I love cooking. I'm not trying to be no IG chef. I'm not trying to sell plates. I might open up a cafe, bookstore kind of deal in a couple of years, but like that's just one of the ways that I express myself. You'll also see me doing my makeup. You'll also see me doing my hair. You'll also see me reviewing stuff that I bought from Sephora that I didn't have no business doing. And so I feel like what's most important to me is trying to remain authentic in a world full of so many distractions and so many blinders where like we're subconsciously being swayed in one direction or the other. And then in terms of what I have coming up, I do got 2 interviews on my food blog coming up from 2 women from Chicago that I'm very excited to interview. One is Jordy Jars. Her name is Jordan. She was like one of the first black women to have a vending machine in O'Hare Airport with like her cake jar. She started that, like the little mason jar with the layered cake. And then another one is this girl, Chef Candace. She's from Chicago but moved to Atlanta. So that's one. Check out my website, anythinks.com. And then the other thing is relaunching my after school program. So I think that was the first summer I was gone from Chicago. I had launched the after school program virtually to be in CPS. Well, I launched it before then when I was teaching at Bogan, but I relaunched it virtually and became an official vendor for CPS afterwards for grammar school. And so I've been talking to some of my school partners in Dallas to relaunch it for next year for grammar school and high school girls. And it's called Girl Talk. And so that's what's coming up in the way of passion projects. That's what I'm working on.
That's really dope. That's really dope. I think I don't have to say anything after that. I think I should shut up because I'm probably just gonna ruin everything.
Oh my goodness, I'll say that.
But no, thanks. No, for real. Like, really, thank you for coming out and taking your time out. Like, it has been an hour, but I think, that was just, very. I'm not really good with words. Let me stop acting like I am. But that was I think that was very important to have of you on the show, is for just people just to, for one, not be fearful of anything. Anything that they want to do, just go ahead and do it, and also just show the perspective of don't be afraid to fall.
Yeah.
I think that you giving a lot of layers that people can connect to, and I appreciate you coming out here. We haven't talked in like forever, but
I was so excited when you asked, and I was like, that's crazy because I'm actually be in town. Yeah, that don't be afraid to fall piece is weird. Was that this year? No, last year, me and my best friend went to Hawaii for our birthdays, and I was like, we should go surfing. And she was like, what? I'm like, I used to love Rocket Power G. I'm too old to learn how to skateboard, but if I fall in water, I'll be okay. And you just made me think about that when you said, like, don't be afraid to fall, because I was petrified. Like, I'm 5 feet tall. The surfing instructor showed me, like, yeah, we right here, but we got to go all the way out there. I'm like, okay, I think I can swim. I ain't never swim in Hawaiian water. Don't know what it's like to be on a surfboard. Still got a torn meniscus, but
still,
I failed.
To this day?
Yeah. We're just going to read here.
I thought it just naturally healed.
I mean, it ain't as torn as it was, but I'm not X million years still torn. Absolutely. But yeah, so the first 2 times I got up on the board, I did exactly what he said. I failed. Wig started sliding, cut my foot, broke my nail, did it again. I think the second time was when I broke my nail. The first time was when I cut my foot. But by the third time, I was really doing the damn thing. Why I travel now. Like, if they offer it, I'm going to try to do surfing, because I just feel like it's a very freeing, liberating experience, because you are so small and the water is so big and you are so powerless, but it's so exhilarating. And so, don't be afraid to fall. And if you do, you are literally attached to your board. You can climb back up there and do it again. So.
No, that's crazy. That's dope. I really appreciate this one. Hopefully we can have you again later down the line. Yes. We always like to do like an update.
During the summer when I am not getting beat up by the Chicago weather.
As you always say. Hey, Annie.
What up?
How do we follow you in your journey?
So for anything food blog, anything honestly related to anything, my website, anniethinks.com. So it's 3 different sections. Annie Eats, that's my food blog. So that's where you can see like interviews, where I post recipes, where I talk about the importance of food and like building community, food deserts, all that kind of stuff. And then Annie Speaks is like mainly just me talking about topics. That's like the normal blog part. That's the last part. I think the last part is my store, if you want to buy some eyeshadow palettes that'll connect you to my Shopify. And then if y'all want to follow me on Instagram, it's Anakin, like Anakin Skywalker, except ANNIEKIN _.
Is that where you got the inspiration from?
That's exactly where I got it from.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yep, shout out to my uncle. I was watching it when I was a kid.